Joy 99.7 FM. And of course, what matters to you matters to us. That's why we are CIMG Radio Program of the Year. Today's conversation is a national one. Ghana is facing a dialysis crisis. I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. The life-saving treatment called dialysis is already unaffordable for the vast majority of Ghanaians. Okay? Because even if you are talking about just the dialysis, forget about the drugs and the things you need to do in addition, just the dialysis. At Kolebu, you will need to be earning 4,560 cedis a month minimum just to afford your 3 sessions a week. Okay. Meanwhile, we are a country with a national insurance scheme. Insurance. It's supposed to cover all citizens. So how is an insured nation still not covered for a condition that is a very real possibility for 13% of our population? According to one of our guests this morning, Dr. Elliot Koranteng Tannor, who is a senior lecturer and nephrologist at the Department of Medicine, School of Medicine and Dentistry, KNUST. We'll be hearing more from Dr. Koranteng, who joins us over the phone. Good morning to you, Dr. Koranteng. Dr. Tannor? Right. We'll be hearing more from Dr. Koranteng Tannor on this and many other statistics that he has put together as part of several studies into this dialysis situation. And why are there so few dialysis machines in the country anyway? As a country, are we not planning our healthcare needs based on our disease burden? So if we know that 13% of us have kidney disease, why do we have less than 300 dialysis machines across the country? Well, these statistics and numbers that are flying around represent actual human beings. There are real people behind these numbers. And today we are going to meet 2 of these real people. Lord Nanajiman is the founder of Lord's Foundation. It's a kidney failure transplant foundation. Okay, they want to help people who need that final solution to kidney failure, which is a transplant. Of course, he was on dialysis for 5 years before he managed to benefit from a kidney transplant in India. Dr. Elliot Koranteng will join us later, but we'll also be hearing the story of Charles Dodiadupo. I hope I've said the name right, yes. Charles Dodiadupo is a 44-year-old accountant. Now, he has been on dialysis for
a year and a half.
1.5 years now. They'll tell you their stories so that you understand the reality behind these numbers and why it's a national crisis. So, gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the Super Morning Show.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Now, Lord, you have a fascinating story, but I want to start with Charles. Charles, you're 44 years old.
Yeah.
You're an accountant.
Yes.
And you now have to spend how many hours on dialysis twice a week?
Roughly 10 hours.
10 hours.
A session is 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
A session is 4 hours. You go on the machine, give a think. If everything is okay, within 4 to 5 hours, you are done. Yeah, so 5 hours, that's 10 hours within the week.
A week.
Yeah.
Just to stay alive.
Just to stay alive.
Now, this is because you have chronic kidney failure.
Yes, please.
How did you get kidney failure?
I didn't know. Somewhere, I think in May 2021, I had an issue with my right leg. Yeah, I was feeling a bit of pain in my foot. So I bought some ointment to treat it. After a week, it was not going. So I decided to go to the hospital just to check. So it was when I got to the hospital that they after running some tests, they saw that I had high blood pressure.
Right.
So instead of them even focusing on my foot, they wanted to treat the high blood pressure first. So I was stabilized, and I made to run some tests. So after a week, I went, and it was from there that I was diagnosed with kidney failure. So they made me to do another test to confirm it at MDS Lancet. So when the results came, it was confirmed. So I was referred to Kolebu. But luckily, I had some few friends at 37. I spoke to them, and I went to 37. And I was on admission for like 3 weeks, and it was confirmed that I had chronic kidney failure.
So in your case, you had hypertension for some time without knowing?
I didn't know. I didn't know. I think I went to the hospital 3 months earlier, and I was put on medication before the issue started. So I spoke to the doctor, and he said probably it might be the hypertension, because I was very active. Throughout my school life. I don't remember going to the hospital. I was very, very active, so I didn't know where it was coming from. And besides that, when it comes to lifestyle, I was one that my friends would tell you, yes, I don't indulge in. So I was very active. Yeah. So it came as a shock to me.
And you've now been a dialysis patient for 1.5 years.
Yes, please.
How has it affected you? Has it changed you? Has your appearance changed? Your health, your strength?
Yeah.
Tell me how it's affected you.
Before the sickness, my weight was around 78 to 80 kg.
Okay.
Yes, but
so you were heavier than me.
Yes, but now I'm 57 kg.
Wow.
I'm 57. I'm 57 kg, and I'm not working because I don't have the strength to work. I mean, even as I'm sitting there, when I get up, you will see that my legs are swollen, and I'm even lucky today. As I'm talking, I'm not spitting because I can spit about 40 times a day. Yes, I spoke to them, and they said it's part of the condition. So basically, I'm home.
And you're an accountant.
Yeah.
But you're unable to work now.
I'm unable to work. I'm unable to work. So for 1.5 years now, I'm home.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm home.
How has this affected your family?
Everybody was devastated. My mom, my dad, my siblings, my wife. Everybody was devastated. I was devastated myself when they broke the news to me. At a point, I was contemplating suicide.
Why?
Yeah, because I knew there was no help coming. And I mean, I talk to people, they tell me the only way out is transplant. And why am I going to get $40,000 to $70,000? And even to talk of the dialysis itself, a week, you spend close to $2,000 minus your medication. Yeah, every week. Where I do my session, a session is $550. And because we are anemic, we need to take an injection every session. And one shot is $220. We'll buy 2, which is $440. So plus $550, which is $990, almost $1,000 per session. And we go twice a week, so that's $2,000.
So I mean, people are up in arms about Kolebu's, 380 cedis per session. But you are saying that there are places where 1,000 cedis is what you need per session.
Per session, yes.
How are you able? You are not working, Charles. How are you able to pay 1,000 cedis twice a week to stay alive?
Yeah, by the grace of God, I get support from my family, especially my siblings, and a few good friends who I attended school with. In addition to my year group, once in a while they also come up to support me. Yeah, so that's how I've been managing.
But Charles, I mean, before I bring in Nana. Let's be real here. This is 8,000 cedis a month.
Yeah.
I know that my family cannot find 8,000 cedis every month for any of us if this were to happen in our family. So how sustainable is this? Are you worried that at some point the money will run out?
I'm very worried. Very, very worried. Because if it gets to a point you go on Tuesday, where to get Friday is an issue. So you have to make calls, before a bailout comes out. Even as I'm talking to you, a very close friend of mine, today, he will not be able to come. Because from Friday, when we went on Friday, he ran the course. So yesterday, he called me and told me, actually, I've not even been able to raise 1 cedi. So I'm not sure I can come. And those days I was missing the sessions. You miss a session, and before I realize, a day or a day after, I've been rushed to the emergency. Yeah, because you cannot sustain. I mean, water will be in your system, you can't breathe, you feel uncomfortable, and a whole lot. and a whole lot. So
it's literally life or death.
Yes, life or death.
Every single day.
Yeah, every single day.
Now, Nana, your situation is I mean, equally heartbreaking. Tell us how you came to have kidney failure.
Actually, at the age of 6, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes.
Right.
Yeah, so during school, I was taking my insulin jabs daily on a daily basis. For that one, my family was able to manage it. So at age 17, 18, I started having issues. Those issues were swollen feet. I thought it was the normal thing, so they rushed me to the hospital, and I was diagnosed with hypertension.
Right.
So after some years with hypertension and all that, I started doing my service at Birth and Death. That was when I was in school.
Birth and Death Registry.
Yes. So after my 1 year service there, my final month at Birth and Death, I collapsed there and they rushed me to 37. And I had issues with my kidneys too. So the doctors started discussing about it. Before that, after some month, I was rushed back to 37 again. They told me that my kidneys had failed me.
Wow.
That was very heartbreaking. It was so heartbreaking.
How old were you at this point?
At this point, I was around 20 years. Yeah.
Wow.
It was sad. So I didn't want to believe it. So I started this prayer and all those things, and it was heartbreaking. So I had to psych myself up. The doctor spoke to me. I had psychologists speaking to me about it. So, and it was.
Tell me about the psychologists. Why was it necessary for you to speak to psychologists? What was going on in your mind?
After being diagnosed with kidney failure, I realized I was having swollen feet, couldn't eat well, started draining, like literally I had no hope. So my parents called me, Nana Didi. I told them I can't eat. I don't know what to eat. You lose appetite. There was no hope, no one to donate. Like the only hope I had at the moment was kidney transplant, because dialysis 3 times every week, it collapsed the family business. I was on dialysis for years, so it collapsed the family business.
How many years?
For about 4 to 5 years, I was on dialysis.
At the same place, right? 37.
37. It got to a point. It was true. So I was moved to a private dialysis center, First Dialysis. Yes. Because the machines weren't enough at 37. Sometimes they get broke down. No one to fix it. They have to look for other alternatives.
Wow. So Nana, 4 to 5 years of dialysis at the same numbers, the same costs that Charles and his family have been dealing with.
Yes.
About 1,000 cedis per session.
Yes.
So
More than 1,000 though.
More than 1,000, right?
Yeah, because your EPO and iron alone, those are the medications you take. And let's say, because of his hypertension, we are all hypertensive, so your BP has to be managed too. So your BP medications, so sometimes they give you injections and all that. And being on dialysis is not just being on the machine. You need extra care. The nurses there too, I salute all of them. They really do. They give extra attention too. Sometimes you'll be there on the dialysis machine, someone will be on your right, on your left. You wake up, one is gone.
One is dead.
One is dead.
Yeah.
Just because maybe he delayed for dialysis and he came in as an emergency, but he couldn't stand the machine. So we lose the person. Kids are so young at 6
on dialysis.
On dialysis. It's sad.
Did you have people, just like Charles, did you have people who just couldn't afford it anymore, so they stopped and died?
Yes. Yes. Sometimes people won't come for dialysis. It's not because they don't want to come for dialysis, but just because they don't have the finances. So a friend of mine hadn't been on dialysis for about 2 weeks. He came back with a swollen scrotum, swollen feet, face. I asked him, he said, I don't have money, Nana. So sometimes you sacrifice a session for him.
What do you mean by that? You sacrifice what?
A session for him. Maybe you come for dialysis on Monday, on Wednesday, and on Friday. So you sacrifice the Wednesday one for him. So at least he has one section.
Wow. So and by the way, let's quickly say good morning to Dr. Elliot Koranteng Tannor. He's a senior lecturer and nephrologist at the Department of Medicine, School of Medicine and Dentistry, KNUST. Dr. Tannor, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Kojo. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you, and thanks for your time. We'll be speaking more to Dr. Tannor shortly, but let's learn all we can from Charles and Lord Nana about their experiences. Now, in your case, Lord, after 5 years, almost 5 years of unaffordable dialysis, you got a final solution.
Yes, that was transplant.
Yeah. How easy was it, first of all, to find a donor and then to find the money?
To find a donor, to find the money was the issue. The money aspect was sad, because you go everywhere, you write to institutions for support. Some will mind you, some will tell you they don't have. So I had to go to my friends, like my year group, my junior high, my university group. Some friends I had. Some friends spoke to their managing directors to also come in. So my year group helped me. Friends went on social media to raise some funds. It wasn't easy. It took months of fundraising before I could reach my target. So I salute Honorable Kennedy Japan, Sami Ewoku of NLA. They all helped me, and Mr. Ashley of Obsidian. They all helped
chipped
me.
in.
Yeah.
So now you obviously have had a transplant.
Yes.
But you are acutely aware of what other people are going through.
Yes.
Tell me, when you were going through 5 years of dialysis, did you wonder why a country with national health insurance cannot step in your time of need?
I thought about it. I actually wrote some letters across. I actually went on social media, but since no one actually knew about this kidney failure, and I realized after my transplant, I went on the net, started reading about it, and I'm like, this is really going on. Kids are getting kidney issues, and it's as if the national health does not care about it. The health ministry doesn't care about it. You think about this, all these things, and I'm like, what kind of country are we in? We are paying taxes. I see the amount of money we pay, and not even a penny is allocated to this disease. You see kids dying, and I hear someone saying, "Oh, we are in for the youth." The youth is dying. The youth is dying. The education is down. Education on kidney failure is down. No one is talking about it.
That's something I even want to test. I mean, let me ask both of you. Charles, before you were diagnosed with kidney failure, Did you know anything about it? Had you heard anything anywhere, any education about kidney failure?
I didn't know much about it, but years back, I think I had a friend who had it. Yeah, so I started asking, what the cause is, what was the cause, and from what I learned probably alcohol, and those stuff. But I didn't know the key underlying conditions was you being diagnosed diabetic and hypertension. I didn't know those were the key underlying conditions about it. So it was when I got it that I started reading and I started enlightening myself about it. So
what about you, Nana?
I didn't also know that being diabetic and being hypertensive could cause kidney failure.
That's interesting. Even though you had diabetes and hypertension, none of your healthcare providers had told you that it could cause kidney failure.
Yeah, I didn't know about it. So till I was admitted at 37 after my national service. That was when they started discussing about it. And I started reading about it. I'm like, wow. So many years of diabetes and hypertension could cause this. The education was down. No one knew about it. Actually, no one actually knows about it now.
Well, that's why we're having a show like this. Dr. Elliot Koranteng Tannor is a senior lecturer and nephrologist at the Department of Medicine at the School of Medicine and Dentistry, which is at KNUST. Now, Dr. Tannor, just before we take a break, there's one thing I want to run by you. This is your field. You've done several studies in this area. I want to know, are Charles and Nana some unique cases, or are they the tip of a massive iceberg?
Yeah, so thank you very much, Kojo, and good morning to your listeners, and good morning to gallant patients, I call them. It is really tough to be a kidney disease patient. To answer your question directly, what stories you just heard are the everyday stories we hear, and that is actually the norm. That is what sometimes gets some of us very uncomfortable, in the sense that a majority of people are waiting to get sick before they get to check their kidneys. I was actually happy. I mean, that one of the patients said that, they had not heard much. I was waiting. If he had said he had not heard anything, then probably the problem will be on us as healthcare providers. But at least if he said not much, which is not bad at all, meaning at least he heard little about it. And I think one of the things we now try to do, and myself, some other people, is to try and educate people about kidney disease. We have an NGO that tries to, we don't have money to take care of them when they get the disease. So we've always maintained that it's all about the prevention. And we try to make, all the noise that we can using platforms like yours and every platform that we are given. But the difficulty is the fact that people think that, somebody else is getting it. And I'm sure somebody is listening to us now who might be saying, they have it, but I don't. But beware that indeed, we have a 20-year-old we just heard, and all they mentioned was that, they were fine. Somebody mentioned that, it was his foot that had a problem. And when he got to the hospital, now the healthcare providers now were worried about his hypertension because they know now that hypertension might kill him faster than even his foot problem. The key message is that, Ghanaians, let's not wait for symptoms. Let's not wait to get sick. Let's get into the habit of wellness, trying to check to know how well our bodies are functioning. Being active alone sometimes might not be enough. You need to see and check how the parameters are doing in your system. And again, that is one of the big challenges with kidney disease. The moment it begins with the symptoms of the nausea, I cannot eat, vomiting, I feel tired easily, we are in the end stages already. And that is why the moment they get there, the discussion is dialysis. But unfortunately, if you are able to pick it early, we can manage you for a long period of time, and chances are that you might not even end up on dialysis. So I think it's a national call that we all need to learn about our kidney issues. We all need to understand what actually happens, and we don't need to wait to get sick. But having said that, I think that government has a major a role to play so far as the management is concerned. We cannot leave all of these people to their fate. Now, this gentleman mentioned that he's an accountant.
Yeah.
And mind you, now he has to stop his accountancy to go on dialysis. Now, if government was to support him to be able to be better off, he will be able to do his work well, and he will be able to pay taxes back to the government. So we shouldn't begin to look at health as a cost issue alone, but we should begin to, as a nation, look at health as an investment. If you invest in these young people, if you invest in these people who are unwell, and they get better, they'll be able to work and be able to pay you back in terms of your, of course, the taxes, and of course, not to mention the taxes they've already paid, for you to become whoever you are.
Indeed,
Dr. And I'm waiting. Now, most people go on campaign platforms and are talking big and all of that. I'm personally waiting. Who will be able to say and hold the bull by the horn that, listen, so far as this care is concerned, we will not be able to do this much, but we will be able to do this. We hardly hear it. And again, I'm sure we'll be discussing some of my papers soon, where I compare us as a country to other countries across Africa that are of the same GDP. Probably we are even doing better than them, but they are doing better for their people. In Tanzania, in Kenya, for instance, they are offering dialysis for their patients twice a week and all. And these, I believe, as Ghanaians, we will be able to do what we can do.
We will be getting into those during our conversation. Well, one thing I want to clarify with you before we go is about the size of the problem. That's even what I meant when I was asking whether this is the tip of the iceberg. What are the numbers telling us about the prevalence of kidney disease in Ghana?
Yeah, so it's indeed a tip of the iceberg because what we see in the clinics are so small as compared to what we think is the main problem. Because these people happen to be in Accra, they know 37, they know Kolebu. And how about those who in the Upper East, Upper West region, who probably will be going through the same symptoms and be told that, it is, something that they did wrong in terms of or whatever it is that they say. So probably they don't even care to get into the health facility. So far as the numbers are concerned, like you rightly said, we believe that some 13% of our population have some form of kidney disease. So if we are assuming averagely we are about over 30 million, some 4 million of us have some form of kidney disease here in Ghana. Now the key thing is that this majority of the 4 million, chances are that will be fine. They might not even get kidney disease, or get kidney failure, I should say, and need dialysis. But there's a chunk that might end up doing that. And as per our ballpark figures that we put together in that paper, in the sense that we believe some 15,000 people might end up, requiring kidney replacement therapy or dialysis. Now, as per some survey that we did, not long ago, in terms of finding out how many people are currently on dialysis across the country, it's not even up to 2,000. So what that means is that there is a chunk of people who would need dialysis and are not getting it in other areas.
That's over
so what it means is that
people.
There is a bigger problem than we see it. And we probably may need to attack it from that angle.
Wow. Well, we will attack it from that angle when we come back from these messages.
Your morning radio.
Let's get back into our conversation. Now, before the break, Dr. Elliot Koranteng Tannor, nephrologist at KNUST, was talking us through some of the outcomes of the studies that he has done into dialysis here in Ghana. Of course, our guests in the studio are Charles Dojia Dukpo and Lord Nana Ajiman. Both of them have been on dialysis. Lord, in the end, got a kidney transplant, but not before he suffered almost 5 years of expensive dialysis that collapsed his family business. Charles and his family are doing everything they can. Every week, it's a scramble to find the money to pay for another session of dialysis. They have both seen people die on their left and on their right during dialysis. It's a real problem, and Dr. Koranteng Tannor has been studying it. Dr. Tannor, let's come back to the conversation about how we are dealing with this as a nation. So your study has uncovered that across the country, we have less than 300 dialysis machines, and they are heavily concentrated in the Greater Accra region and to some extent in the Asante region as well, with very few in some other regions. There are many regions, about 7 of them, where there are no dialysis machines at all. How? first of all, how did we get it so wrong? Did we fail to understand the disease burden when it comes to kidney disease? Is that why we have failed to invest in its treatment?
Yeah. Thanks, Kojo. And I think where I'll start off with is that I keep saying that kidney disease is that neglected, non-communicable disease. So a lot of people would hear and know about hypertension, diabetes, but so less would even discuss or mention kidney disease until, of course, I put it up on my Facebook page, until Kolebu decides to throw a message for their patients and the whole country gets talking. So it is such a big problem. And where those of us who sit and see these patients on daily basis actually know how big the problem is. And indeed, it is the more reason why I wrote that paper for advocacy, for us to really understand what this is all about and probably what we are not looking at. So for starters, yes, there's kidney disease everywhere in this country, obviously. But it so happens that there are some places, of course, without the machines. But the one thing we should also remember is that it is not, the machines need to be taken care of by, experts trained to be able to handle it. So it is not like, okay, now somebody hears that, now they say there's no machine in, let's say, Uti region or somewhere, and then the next day we'll hear somebody say, okay, I'm going to put 5 machines there. That is a joke, because it doesn't solve the problem by just putting the machines there. You need the machines, you need the requisite staff, you need, technicians, you need dialysis, nurses, you need all of this, apart from the fact that people should be able to pay for it. So if we don't solve the problem holistically, we'll end up, satisfying the masses. Yes, maybe they've done this or they've done that, but then at the end of it all, the patient does not get to lie on the machine. And for me, as a nephrologist, I want the patient to lie on the machine and get better. So we need to look at it holistically that way. But it is true that, yes, there are some 7 regions that there's zero dialysis machine, not even one.
Wow. Dr. Tannor, let me ask this question. Galamsey. Are we seeing a direct connection between the rise of Galamsey and the rise of kidney disease?
Okay, so thanks, Kojo. And indeed, in research, we'll call this one ecological fallacy, one way or the other. Yes, we know kidney disease is going up. Yes, we know that, of course, Galamsey has, increased, in quantums. But we cannot directly say that it is, connected without, the required research. But nonetheless, we know that the chemicals that are used for these Galamsey and the fact that these patients, or should I say these people, expose themselves and expose our water bodies and our soils and all of that to this mercury and its content, we clearly know that mercury can affect not only the kidney, it can affect the liver, it can affect the heart to some extent, and even the nerves. So indeed, we can say that. But again, I'm throwing it out there. We need stronger studies to be able to nail it, that, okay, this is what has happened. But clearly, we know people who live in Galamsey areas have high content of mercury in their system. And then we know clearly that if you have high content of mercury in your system and in your urine, it can affect your body. And the organ that it also affects is the kidney. So we can actually say that, but we need to put numbers to it.
Wow. And you see, the reason why I asked this question is because the unavoidable fact is that Galamsey is introducing these heavy metals into our water table. It's a fact.
Sure.
So if you are confirming on the medical side that these heavy metals in our water table affect our kidneys, our liver and others, then you're right. It's just a matter of numbers that we don't have. But the facts will be that the more Galamsey we have, the more kidney disease we have.
We can say that.
Okay. So let's talk about health policy. Okay. At some point, somebody has to look at these numbers and determine that we must fund the care for kidney disease. Someone has to make that decision. But so far, the only policy decision we are aware of is to tax consumables for the treatment of kidney disease. consumables for dialysis. What? Okay.
Are you okay?
No, I'm not. I am not
problem
okay.
Itself. Discussing it is also a problem.
Hey, so no.
Yeah.
Okay. Does nobody come to you for advice, Dr. Tannor? You are at KNUST, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. When people want to make decisions, scientific decisions, do they come to you at all for advice with all the papers you've written?
Well, I'm sure they have their advisors, and of course, I mean, there are people in government who might also know some of these things. You know, there was some time ago, I think that should be 2018, where I noted that one of our big challenges, which of course has been confirmed by the gentleman you spoke to in your studio, the fact that we know so little about this. And I felt that was a very cheap way to start this discussion on how to help prevent kidney disease. Let's begin to educate our population. Let's begin to educate the doctors and nurses in these peripheral hospitals. Because where I sit, what actually happens is that before they get to us, things are very late. But if we are able to educate people who see the diabetics, hypertensives, or patients on daily basis and are screening them, chances are that our numbers will not be what we are throwing out there. So I wrote, a nice proposal, went around looking from region to Accra, trying to get policymakers to ride on it, that listen, this is where we can start from. Because I know the cost is something else. So maybe, yes, when we get to the cost issue and how government can come in, I have some suggestions.
In fact, let's hear them now.
We agree. We should get there now.
Yeah, let's talk about your suggestions.
Good. So, but the point is, if we start from educating the populace, that people know that, listen, don't get sick before you check your kidney function. Know that if your parents have diabetes and hypertension, chances are that they've deposited an inheritance in you. And chances are that as you grow, you might also get it. Of course, there are situations where your parents don't need to get it, or you, the hypertension or diabetes, but you might also get it. So let's check these things. In Ghana, for instance, about 7% of the population have diabetes. Hypertension, which the patients in your studio have all mentioned are the reasons why they actually got this, are about 30% in this country. 1 out of 3 people above 18 have hypertension. But the key question is, how many of these people are on, let's say, yearly basis, or even 6-monthly basis, or even once a while, checking to see how well their kidneys are doing until somebody gets a foot problem and goes to the hospital before somebody checks the blood pressure. So we should get into the habit of educating people to know and prevent. That's where it starts from. Now, to what government can do under the circumstance with all the price that is going up. Of course, I mean, it's so terrible that something that is already expensive is being heavily taxed. That becomes a problem. And again, for healthcare providers, they want the best. I should say, Kolebu has soaked this pressure for a long period of time. Some 3 months ago, I already heard that, they are not able to do dialysis for their outpatients because they have run out of consumables. I hardly believed it until I called a colleague to confirm. And this has been happening quietly, and I'm sure all the discussions have been going on, outside media, until they get to a point that, listen, we cannot get going because we don't have the consumables. Our suppliers need us to pay for it. So what do? We may have to increase it. But look at the numbers, Kojo. It was 380. As of that 380, the dollar was around 60, right? It is now 700. So thinking about it, it's just troubling. So even if you don't consider the tax component and all, what they threw out there is realistic. Even what is the price of Kinkin now compared to what it was about a year ago? Yeah. And the price of dialysis has not been increased for only having 4 years or whatever it is like. How long can they sustain themselves? Because eventually these patients will suffer. They get to Kolebu and they are told, we don't have enough machines, we don't have consumables. Go out there. Because do you know what it means to go out there? It is more expensive out there because that's private. So the Kolebu, that is the public health institution that should be able to soak and help these patients, cannot bear it anymore than to say that, listen, this is what the price is. This is the realistic. This is what you have to pay for. And I think government can step in. If taxes go off, of course, then the price comes down. Can we produce some of the items that we use locally? Indeed, if we can produce the cars, if we can produce this and assemble that, can we think about assembling it, so to speak, we're not even produce these items locally? for the price to be reduced? Can we get more stakeholders to pump more? Oh, there's a something percent COVID levy. Now the point is that can we get a little levy with all of that to be able to take up, or should I say convert? Now COVID is going down now. Convert the COVID levy to a national a kidney fund levy to be able to support all of these things. Can we train more people to be able to take care of? So then, if we end up throwing dialysis machines across the country, do we have the necessary technicians to be able to handle it? The nurses, and again, when we talk about nurses and doctors, even the few, because of conditions of service now, are running away. That is also another big problem.
Oh.
So now people will get the condition. In my unit alone here at the component teaching what to do, but the past 3 years, the nurses are living in drones. And it's a highly specialized area. You take time to train them, and UK will love them because they are well trained. And they carry them away, and we are looking on.
Oh, Dr. Tannor, thank you. Thank you so much. Some very important suggestions there from the nephrologist and senior lecturer at KNUST. Listen, we have 1 minute to go. I'm going to split it between our two guests in the studio, Charles and Lord. The president is listening. The health minister is listening. In 30 seconds, give them a personal message from you about what we should be doing at this point. Charles.
Okay, for me, all that I'd like to say is it's a very big issue. But in the short term, as the doctor said, they should waive the taxes on the consumables. They should waive it so that the cost will come down a little bit. And in the long term, they look at setting up a national fund devoid of politics. I mean, that is managed by an independent body, so that they will help us who are on the dialysis to be able to sustain it.
Thank you, Charles. Lord, talk to the president and the health minister for me.
Okay, thank you very much for this opportunity. First of all, our first appeal to Mr. President to at least waive taxes on this consumables, as he said, and again put it on the national health. We are begging you, for the love of God and country, please put it on the national health. Help the needy. As you said, the youth is dying right now. The youth is dying of kidney failure and lack of dialysis. And now we are seeing this. You didn't promise this. So please help us out, Mr. President, and the Minister of Health. Please help us too.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you, Lord. Thank you so much, Dr. Tannor. Thanks to all of you who have participated in our conversation.